All righty, welcome back to the PA High School Football Report. We're back for another week. Regular season now has reached its midpoint, and obviously we're going to break down some interesting topics. They call them superlatives. I still don't really know the actual true definition of that, but we're going to break them down anyway. Eric Epler of PennLive alongside colleague Dan Sostek. I always have to ask you, Dan, how was the weekend? What'd you do this weekend? Because you're a world traveler. You're in D.C.
It's probably my most boring weekend.
Making moves.
And of course, it was the most boring one when we didn't have a single Saturday football
We
game.
did not. Yes.
So you know what I did? I just sat on my couch and watched college football. When you're off from covering football, you got to
Yes.
watch more football. So some good football. Stayed up late, watched that crazy Colorado Baylor game, which credit to Dion, but I don't know what the heck Baylor was doing at the end of that game. I feel like there are these coaches who are like defensive wizards that try to get way too cute playing prevent defense.
Yes.
They try to send these like extra blitzers. It's like just rush three, drop everyone else back, and bat the pass down. It's not that hard. But it was a fun, relaxing weekend. Then I got another wedding this week, so.
So where's this wedding coming up?
Back in my hometown. The wedding's actually in Conshohocken, and the party is where I had my bar mitzvah party. So
Nice.
yeah, so it's
nice.
a little bit of a throwback. So
I thought it was Sea Caucus, but no, it's Conshohocken.
Conchi.
All right. Yeah, I too caught up on some college football. Watched about 7 plays of that, riveting Penn State-Kent State game.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch. But let's dive right in, Dan. So maybe over the next couple of minutes, we're going to talk about it's midseason. So obviously we sort of digest the first half of the season all week long on Penn Live. We're going to have answers to these questions of who may be our end of the year coach of the year, best player, offensive MVPs, things like that. And obviously being in midseason, it's a good time to break those down. And basically get the nominees, if you will, for the first 5 weeks in a bunch of different categories. So let's break it down too.
We didn't include best stadium food this time because
No.
I've been partaking a little less because so you can only eat these whoopie pies so many years without
Well, what the places do really. The good places when you walk in the gate, before you get to the main concessions, because often it's at the other end of the stadium or behind the stadium or whatever, is they bombard you with the baked goods, the bake sale.
I will say last year after we did this at week 5, and then I got to get to a Big Spring game. Big Spring's got one of the best concession stands out there.
Big Spring always brings it, absolutely. And you always have to acknowledge too that, again, Dan and I are probably 2 of the lowest maintenance reporters. There are guys out there across the state, we know them, who are very high maintenance and need to be taken care of.
Yep.
If you literally give me a seat and a piece of earth, basically a deck to put the computer on and work during a game, I'm happy.
I don't even need a deck. I can put it on my lap. They're called laptops I just literally need some space to myself and I'm smiling.
There are people out there that would complain. They give you pizza, they give you things at halftime.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a runner.
Yeah.
Which is impressive to me. Like they recruit a runner to go and get you stuff at halftime, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And not just you, obviously everybody in the press box. But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
So here's some of the categories we're going to go over, and then talk about some of our picks. We're going to talk about the best first half storyline, which I think we probably have a couple in mind there. Best game environment. These are games that we've covered and seen, and basically, from student sections to concessions and all kind of things. Basically, a setup. Best big game performance, which is there's going to be a few involved here. And then we'll talk about a couple fun things too, and a couple of the bigger categories personnel wise, like who could be very much in line for coach of the year, best player, and obviously things like biggest upset and all that. So we're going to start, Dan, with our best first half storyline, one of the big ones here. And again, a lot could happen in the last 5 weeks of the regular season and obviously into the postseason. So, but best first half right now, I've got three situations, programs, or personnel or players written down here. I'm sure there's more that I just forgot to mention, but why don't you start? Throw out your first half storyline for you.
Yeah, and you're going more. You, I think, went more kind of. Mike is sort of more about specific teams, everything.
Yes,
I'm looking at the big picture. My biggest first half storyline is just. I'm really happy with the realignment. I think the realignment has really kind of shifted how this season has gone. It obviously gave us one of the biggest games of the year.
Right.
And then we have a ton more big matchups, specifically in the Commonwealth Division. It's given some other teams chances to really emerge, kind of out of the shadows of some other teams.
Yep.
I think this new look Commonwealth Division is really exciting because usually at this point of the year when we're talking about teams like, Bishop McDevitt, you're like, oh, they played their early non-conference games. Now we just wait for the playoffs.
Right.
We've got some big games left for them, too, especially because I think one of your storylines is becoming a much bigger game than we anticipated, maybe. But I just think that it's really done the job. You're seeing a lot of other teams kind of emerge. Teams like, Mechanicsburg at 5-0 with their new division. Shippensburg 5-0. Just a lot of big emergences. From kind of the little tweaks we've done. And then some other programs, like Cedar Cliff, who, despite a couple losses, have I think they've comported themselves like a top-tier program.
Agreed.
In the area, showing that, they're basically playing up a level to the nth degree and have really comported themselves well in these games. And I think that was a welcome change or something that we've all been looking for a while, and I think that's been a lot of fun the first half.
Yeah, it's a couple of things. I made a sort of prediction when we were going into the season about Cedar Cliff, about them. I truly believe that they could finish top 3 in the Commonwealth, and everybody. I took a lot of, a lot of stuff for that. But they're not far off of that. No. They're not far off of that. Obviously, they just gave Harrisburg a whale of a game. 28-20 was the game on Friday.
They've had a brutal schedule.
And it's expected, but they're the type of team, and obviously Colin Gillen's the type of coach to get these guys ready week to week. We've seen it for years now, and that's the one thing you can trust about Cedar Cliff is they're not going to be outworked. So that was a situation where there were questions with a couple of Commonwealth teams. We knew Central Dauphin was sort of rebuilding, if you will, a little bit on the comeback. Cumberland Valley was still a mystery. I think they're still a mystery, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, those kind of situations led me to think, and, I'm glad Cedar Cliff is actually doing what we expected them to do. I mean, you're right, it's been a brutal schedule. The other thing about the realignment that I really like is putting Steel High and Camp Hill and putting them with the former Liberty teams. Because that was the big question for the Liberty teams, right? Like, can these guys compete with, not only historic programs, which both Camp Hill and Steel High are, but can they compete week to week and kind of stay upright and against teams that, typically would have probably a little bit the speed edge, and obviously maybe some bigger type linemen too. Now it's not a huge gap now because Steel High had lost 20 seniors who were just it's an unbelievable class. But those games have been really, really fun so far.
Yeah.
So I think that leads me to agree with the realignment. I really like it. It was fun watching some of these teams in 3-4 non-conference games.
Yeah.
But I think it's just made I think it's tightened the conference up and I think it's made it better.
Yeah.
I really do. One of my big first half storylines, and you're going to agree with this because I think you're a big fan, is the 5-0 start by CD East.
Yeah.
That's never happened in
Best
their program
history.
So and it's again, I think the schedule is going to get tougher over the second half. But the way they've done it, and they've done it without Jared Porter, is kind of beyond me. We've seen how teams, just giving you examples statewide, Aliquippa, got an injury to Tyke Hayes, the Penn State recruit, player of the year, returning player of the year, just tremendous athlete, running back, he gets injured. They lose this week to Penn Hills, a team that normally they would not lose to. You know what I mean? So that's how sort of brittle it can be when you lose your main guy. Excuse me. CD's, Porter was an 1,800-yard guy last year. And so playing without them to move to 5-0 and achieve something the program's never achieved, to me, is one of the biggest first-half storylines that we have. You got any more?
I'm kind of agreeing with the other one that I know you have, which is Stone Saunders. It's just, and it's a layup, right?
Tap in.
Just going to break the all-time touchdown record. Probably, I think he's on pace for the passing yard record as well. I think we all expected it when he threw 30-something touchdowns as a freshman and then went to 50-ish the next 2 years.
Right.
But it's still obviously there was some question because of the realignment if he was going to be able to put up these gaudy numbers. He's still after I think even he would admit kind of for his standards kind of a tepid start statistically to the year. He's really come on the last couple weeks and it looks like he's going to finish the season strong and kind of make a mark that's going to be pretty hard for future quarterbacks at top.
Yeah, I got to talk to him after the Carlisle game. He threw 6 touchdowns to tie the all-time record, career record, excuse me. But and he was just like, man, I'm tired of people talking about it. And I said, dude, you better hunker down. Yeah. Because the one thing we as media we love to talk about are records. Yeah. I'm like, you're going to be seeing a lot of me, dude. Just get used to it. Yeah. But I personally, I didn't think through 5 weeks that he was going to be at 20 touchdown passes. That's what he needed to tie. They're at home this week against Altoona. I'm pretty sure he's going to pop over that record with his next TD. So he's been really good for so long, and he started his first game. Yeah. So I think I broke it down. I think he's 42-5 overall. Yeah. I think right now as a starter, which is pretty impressive. He may have missed one game in there, but I'll have to check. But yeah, he's been tremendous too. So obviously, another one I just want to throw out real quick is, excuse me, I think Steel High's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I know, obviously, I know they lost, up at Juniata by 14, 15 points, and obviously they just lost to Susquehanna Township, which is a 5A or 4A program, which has a lot of dogs back. So, being 3-2 at this point, I'm not even sure we thought that was going to be the case. But as long as Steel High stays healthy, they're still going to be a player in 1A. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a team, and obviously those guys, and Luciano's back, and you got some guys that played a lot last year, but they're going to be just fine. I wouldn't rest on them, making a run to the state semis. You look at teams like Lackawanna Trail, which very good in single A, and teams like they're probably going to have to go up against Bishop Guilford probably in the quarters. So that's going to be a tough game, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities that this team makes it back. Yeah, to the championship. So Steel High is fine, 3-2 record. Don't panic; they're okay. Yeah. All right, Dan. Let's move on to we like this one, best big game environment. We talk about this a lot off camera about where it's a lot of fun to go and see a game there. What's your spot?
I mean, I think we're probably gonna be pretty tight. Maybe you have a different one, but the battle for the Berg, just Harrisburg, McDevitt was just awesome. Yeah. People lining up. It felt almost like a college environment with all there was tailgating going on, and I know the McDevitt people like the tailgate to begin with, but
they do like to they do like to tip it a little bit. Yeah.
But it felt like almost like a college football environment down there. You had LaShawn McCoy rolling up and down the sidelines, right, yelling, getting in the huddles, yelling at the refs. He was having so much fun. You could tell there was a lot of pent up energy in that game, and then the very end, I love those games where it's a home game and a road game, sort of, but it's not really a home game or a road game. So that was a lot of fun. Runner up was, I thought, I made the trip down to Waynesboro a couple weeks ago, and the Waynesboro-Shippensburg game was actually a lot of fun. The Waynesboro, obviously we kind of lose track of them sometimes because it's an hour and a half away. Mm-hmm. But they have a really good environment down there. They had an American flag hanging on a crane, and had fireworks post game even after the loss. And you always like I said, you like those games where the road team also fills the stadium too. And you just kind of you have noise no matter what's going on. So that was my runner up, but Battle for the Berg was top.
Does the crane stay there?
They said they specifically mentioned who brought it in. It was some construction company. So
okay.
It was dangling up. It looked like some scene from Friday Night Lights or something. So
I agree with you on Battle of the Berg. It's obviously different. The game hasn't happened since 2017. It's obviously a different locale. It's not as good as it shoving 10K into the old rock pile and getting that atmosphere, but it was pretty good. Yeah. I will admit it was pretty good, and Shady probably should have been flagged at least twice.
Love you, Shady.
For there's only so many sideline warnings the Zebras can give you, but that was fun, and obviously having a guy like that back. Is pretty cool. My number 2 was Juniata. The Steel High game at Juniata had a really good atmosphere. It's been a long time since I've been to Mifflintown to see it, but whenever you raffle off a full-size brand new helmet, as soon as you walk in the door, I'm hooked. It's good for me. They have just such a nice setup when you walk through the gate. Raffle was here. They're selling merch there, and they had what I would literally consider the best hat selection game that I've ever seen. Normally if they're selling hats, there's 2 different styles.
Yeah.
And maybe if you throw in a camo, you know what I mean? So maybe you get 3.
Yeah.
There was 20 different hats styles that you could have purchased, and they had U-shaped tables filled with t-shirts and merch and hoodies and all kind of stuff. It was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And everybody there is so nice. So easy to work with. It was a great atmosphere for that. So, congrats! Shout out to the folks in Juniata. I had a great time there. All right, best individual game performance. This one has a lot of candidates. So run through a couple that you have.
My first one, real quick. I'm going just Jayon Lewis in that McDevitt game. I'm bringing this up. It was. Just because of the context, it wasn't like the greatest statistical game anyone's had. It was a pretty good statistical game, but it was
good.
It was more just being thrust into that role in that environment where you could fall to 0-2. One Mid-Penn Commonwealth loss could be the death knell to winning that division.
Right.
And he showed up and played the game of his life when his team needed it the most. So that was one. I think the Brad Hockenberry game where he had 9 carries for 300 yards. It did. I had to double check with Devin Whitfield to make sure that was real. So that was another one. And then Christian Joy feels like every week he puts up one of these. So with 5 touchdowns or so. So and then Elias Koch has had some big games too recently for Harrisburg. I think last week he did a little bit of everything, and the week before he had a blocked extra point. So a couple of Harrisburg kids as well.
Yeah, Koch is a guy actually who you'd expect. Okay, obviously being a 3-4 star wideout, one of the best recruits in the class of 26, and you were like, okay, he's going to go 11 for 170 one day and 2 TDs. But his work has really been balanced, particularly on defenses where he's been really good.
I was talking with Cal about this, about how unselfish all their 4-star guys are, and it's just so apparent, right? None of these kids care at all about their stats. Messiah Mickens is out here playing defense, taking 9 carries a game. Sheffy's playing corner. Kevin Brown plays both offense and defense. All these kids do not. When Sean Lee was there, he's playing DB as well. These kids do not care. Like he just and it's one thing Cal's always been so good at getting these kids to buy in. Kind of all about the team concept. And Elias Koch is definitely one of those because he. On a pass-heavy team, that kid could have 2,000 receiving yards any given year.
Yeah. Imagine if he was playing at like Camp Hill or something like that. I mean, he would have ridiculous numbers. Yeah. But you're right about Lewis. Lewis was a guy that I have down. Christian Joy is another guy that I have down. Another one I have down is Gabe Johnson from Northern, just for individual game performance.
They've cloned Cole Bartram.
Yes, Cole Bartram is gone, and if you recall, Cole Bartram used to get the rock. Coach Miller used to give Cole Bartram the rock, and I would too. If you look at Cole, he basically just says with his eyes, "You're going to want to give me the ball." 2,000-yard rusher guy. He ran the ball basically about 30. I'd say an average probably 30 times a game.
Yeah.
And Gabe Bartram ran the ball a
Gabe
ton.
I'm
sorry, Gabe Johnson. Yeah.
You combined them.
I combined them, yeah, because I liked it. But
they're
against
both wrestlers too.
Right. Against Gettysburg, he ran for 344 yards and 3 TDs in that game. So as far as individual game performance, that's pretty good. But Christian Joy's working on back-to-back 240-plus yard rushing performances, which is pretty impressive. I don't really care who you're playing.
Yeah.
So some good guys in there, and we'll have more, obviously, online here in a couple of days. But all right, let's move on. You mentioned the guy like Devin Whitfield at West Perry. These are guys who are tremendously good at what they do, and they help us so much.
Yeah, because if people don't understand, we've got what, 5 people on staff.
There's 5. Yeah, there's basically 5 people staff, and obviously we're all GAs at this point, which is general assignment.
Yeah.
But there's so much focus on football that it doesn't all come from me. It doesn't all come from Dan. It's a collaboration.
But we have 16 games plus every week.
Yeah.
And we can, despite what people think, we can only be in one place at one time.
Can only be at one place. Dan occasionally is at 2 places at once, but he's a superhero.
Yeah.
But yeah,
these people so we just we just wanted to give a quick shout to some that they're always so great.
Fantastic.
Devin Whitfield, Bill Purnell from East Penn.
Yeah, he's on my list.
Media packets every week. Cedar Cliff's always really great.
Yeah.
And shout out to State College for having live stats during their game.
They do live stats. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know how they do it.
And I think it's done by a couple of students too, and who are just animals.
Which is why I forgive them for their numbers were a little off in the Cumberland Valley game, but we figured it out.
Well, they would probably say your numbers were off.
Well, no, because I checked the max preps later, and it was mine. I went by theirs. It was 60 yards off, but I think they had. That's all off them software stuff.
Yeah, there are occasional differences, and but it's usually a very small range, 2-3 yards rushing or whatever. It's if you're covering the game on the field, your perspective on a punt and what did he catch it at the 31 or 30, and you're at the other end of the field, things like that. But yeah, usually pull back and compare once you get to it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. But yeah. And Juniata, I mentioned earlier, was just tremendous in helping us out and just giving us that little bit of edge, whether it be help with statistics or in-game stuff.
And obviously, shout out to Pugs too from McDevitt.
I
mean, we don't need his help because we cover all their games pretty much while Stone's chasing it. But if we missed the game, I'm pretty sure we'd be all set with Pugs. So.
Well, Pug actually too, and he'll point out if anything is off because he actually watches the game.
Yeah.
Right after the game.
Yeah.
So he wants to make sure his are right and we're on the same page too and we're correct. So,
yeah.
But yeah, there are a bunch of guys like this. These are just 3 or 4 that stand out to us. But there's a lot of guys who really do a great job in not only promoting the program, but promoting these kids and making sure that we have what we need because we ask for a lot.
Yeah.
We'll put it to you that way. All right, Dan, let's flush this out. We got a couple more categories to go. Biggest upset.
My biggest upset. I was considering Harrisburg McDevitt just because of the context of that game,
right.
But it's still Harrisburg. It still is the program that you can never count out. So I'm not going to go that. And I think there are 2 games that involve the same team, but one's on the winning side and one's on the losing side. And I think I'm going to go a different one than you. I'm going to go West Perry beating Susquehanna Township because I just think that we all have a tremendous amount of respect for West Perry and the program Bob Bowden has. But I thought that this was the year that Susquehanna Township was going to kind of roll through the regular, especially after that Penn Hills win looking really good.
Right.
After they beat Aliquippa, and the offense was just humming. It was humming. And that West Perry defense really stifled them and really, it was, what was it, a 34-17 ball? It was a 17-point ball game.
Yep.
I think that's what made it such a crazy result to me is that it wasn't a close game. That I thought if West Perry was going to win that game, it was going to be like a 17-14 game. So I was just really impressed by that win by West Perry. So as I say a bunch of nice things about West Perry, you're now going to go the other way.
I truly believe the biggest upset we've had so far in 5 weeks is Middletown's win over West Perry.
Yeah,
and it just happened 14-9.
Yeah.
The score tells you a lot, or at least scares you a lot. I think if you're West Perry, because they did so well and because they sort of, had their way basically with Susquehanna Township, and used that sort of misdirection too, and kind of set just did all the things to set up Susquehanna Township's defense to win that game, and then here you come, and it's a huge letdown. And I'm giving Middletown full credit for this, but that's a massive letdown. Again,
and we look at the box score. We weren't at the game. We don't know.
We think Brad Hockenberg was hurt. I don't know anything official, but obviously he only ran the ball 6 times, which is not very West Perry-like in any game. So we'll have to check that. But congratulations to Middletown for that one. To me, that's the biggest upset of the first half of the season. All right, a couple more quick ones, Dan. Breakout player. We named one in Jan Lewis earlier.
I'm going. This guy's not a breakout player in that he's been kind of solid the last couple of years, but I don't think that anyone realized necessarily how good he was until he got his chance. That's Santana, Tanny Young, CD East, among the leaders in the state in receiving yards this year for a team that we honestly didn't think was going to pass that as much as it has.
True.
It's kind of had to because Jared Porter got hurt. But man, what a player he looks to be. I think that it's one of those cases where sometimes these kids don't get the chance to show themselves until the stars kind of align. Yeah, I think we've said before he can run any route. Over 500 yards. Just awesome season from Santana Young so far.
Tanny Young's been really good. I think Dominic Diaz Ellis at Bishop McDevitt's been really good. If you recall, he didn't play last year much because of the transfer situation. But I think he's been really good. And you had mentioned PJ Dent. We talked a little bit about him
that
too.
That kid's electric.
Obviously, really turning it on and really providing Cedar Cliff really what they need, because that's the Cedar Cliff offense which makes it go. Is the rushing attack, and I wasn't sure who was going to really fill that role, and Dent's been really, really good.
Yeah.
All right, Coach of the Year. We've got a lot of candidates for this, so run through them quick.
To me, it's between two guys. It's two 5-0 teams. I think this is kind of when you reward that undefeated start.
Yes.
At the end of the year, you can kind of look a little more contact-based, but I'm going Dave Heckard. Anytime you switch sports or coaching.
Yeah, he's a wrestler.
Wrestling coach. I know he's obviously been involved in football before, but to take over that mechanics program, have them 5-0, just blowing teams out. I know the schedule's been a little light, but you play who you play, and I've always said it still says a lot about your team if you're blowing someone out. I don't care who it is. I think if you're not that good of a team, it's going to be a closer game. Like it sounds basic, but it's true, and he has that team firing all cylinders. But then the other one that I think deserves a lot of credit is Eric Faust at Shippensburg.
Yes.
Just because of all the everything that program's gone through with Brady Machuski's younger brother passing away and how much that meant to the area. Coach Faust he's a guy that I think he'll be the first to say he embraces kind of the emotions of a season, and I think he's kind of not used it because that makes it sound opportunistic, but they have taken this situation. They're playing for Brady, and 5-0 start, and it looks like Shippensburg's back to playing the type of football we've seen them play under Eric Faust.
Yeah, I can't give it to Dave Heckard because I think actually he trucked me one time in a game. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. The Cumberland Valley guys, they all trucked me.
One more person I want to shout out real quick is Cliff Pine. I don't care who they're playing. 4-1 for James Buchanan is an awesome thing for that program to achieve after everything it's been through. So, being out of the Mid-Penn, everything. So, quick shout out to Cliff Pine too.
Yeah, Heckard, Pine, Lance Dean at CD East, I think are all worthy candidates.
Cal Everett too.
Cal Everett. I also think Kevin Yarnovich at Trinity is another guy we should be talking about at 4-1, and Scott Govern at Middletown. They also are 4-1, and considering
3-2, right?
3-2. I'm sorry. Yeah. And considering this is the second year after the hazing incident. 2 years in rebuilding that program, so I think Scott Govern's done a pretty good job too. So. Last but not least, Dan, let's talk best player, MVP for the first 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, there are some running backs that you could really consider going in the direction of Christian Joy, Brad Hockenberry, but I'm going to give a wide receiver some shine and as another candidate, and he might be the basketball player of the year this year too, and that's Josh Smith of Pittsburgh. 11 receiving touchdowns through 5 games is crazy. I think we all knew how talented he was as a football player. The basketball stuff's been going on since he was a freshman, but he really kind of raised some eyebrows last year and started getting some Ivy League offers. And you can see why he's mossing guys. He's returning kicks for touchdowns. He's doing everything for that high-flying Mechanicsburg offense. And, we'll see how they deal with a tougher second-half schedule, but it's really hard to obviously, I think Stone Saunders will be there at the end of the year. He's really been building as the season goes. Eli Ryder, too, the quarterback in Mechanicsburg.
Yes.
Torrin Evans with a nice bounce-back performance this week as well. But I think it's either – I'm kind of between Josh Smith and Christian Joy as my two first-half MVPs.
Yeah, Josh Smith, I think, is at the head of the list at this point, just because Mechanicsburg's 5-0. They're 5-0 because of that kid. Obviously, Eli Reader's been really, really
Isaac
good,
Dolman, too.
Yeah, and Dolman's been great. It's a really good, active football team that's doing it. But I think Smith has just put them over the top.
Yeah.
Because he does so much. Yeah. He really does so much. I look for those two-way guys. I look for guys like Brad Hockenberry at West Perry. I really think Maurice Barnes at Bishop Deb has a really good, solid first half of the season. Maxim Johnson is catching more passes at Line Mountain now too, and he's scoring touchdowns. Beyond him, collecting through 2-3 sacks a game for Line Mountain, who is obviously is 4-1. And another guy I'd like to mention too that I don't know if his numbers are eye gouging. But Damaj Jala at CD East has been really, really good. Awesome. We talked a lot about him last week, about the leadership role that he plays. No-nonsense kid, he's another guy, just like we talked about the Harrisburg. Doesn't care if he's throwing for 200 yards a game.
Yep.
As long as they keep winning, I think that's a really good signal for him.
That's what I was going to say about Elias Koch, too. I don't know if he has the numbers necessarily to be in this conversation at this point, but if you talk about what they've contributed to their football team and, how much his presence has helped that program, kind of just having that, him and Masai Mickens, both Masai's been awesome defensively. I think those two guys just, kind of hanging in there while there's been a lot of injuries and, off the field stuff with the Sean Lee stuff. Again, those numbers don't do them justice. So they're guys that I think will be in the mix, especially for our all-star teams and things like that.
Yeah, Jasper Sheps is another kid like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's lucky if he gets 2 grabs a game.
Yeah.
And he's a really good wide receiver, but also a tremendous safety in that for Juniata too, and they're doing really, really well.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll end this glorious list of superlatives.
We beat the 5-minute warning.
Yes. Megan is flashing. Get off. So we're rolling right into week 6. The air is cooling. Obviously, get out there and watch some football. A big thank you to our listeners. If you don't know, we just won a Keystone State Media Award for this podcast and something else called the Society of Professional Journalism.
Many awards.
It was too many to count. I can't really list them all.
Who cares? We don't do it for the awards.
But we do it for the awards.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for making us get on that list. Dan, always a pleasure. And come back next week.
Yep.